Welcome to the XPO podcast. Today, I've got the amazing Pete Barfield.
Hi, I've never been called amazing before, so thanks for that first. I'm Pete. I'm a co-founder of PBS Creative, which is now 8 years old. We're based in Telford, Shropshire, nice little area, and maybe slightly brought down by some local hooligans that moved just up the road to us. But yeah, that's where we are.
That's Telford for you, Pete, that is, to be fair.
Which is, if you don't know, it's XPO. They're around the corner from us now.
Yes, very, very, very close. Pete, actually, the reason why we've sort of chose PBS as well today is that they actually run our website, which is fantastic. They do an amazing job. Anything that we give them, leaps or bounds, how easy it is, how hard it is, they always give us the best. So, fantastic. So, Pete, do you want to just do a little bit of an introduction with yourself? I know you've just said you're a co-founder of PBS, but just elaborate on a few things.
Yeah, I can give you a little bit of a history of me. So I think it's fair to describe myself as a technical evangelist, a tech evangelist. I just love everything that's basically technology based and how we can use it to improve our work, our lives, and I just love tinkering with technology. And this started when I was about 10 years old. And my mum and dad brought home a Commodore VIC-20, an old 8-bit machine that preceded the C64. A lot of people know what a C64 is, but they don't know what's a VIC-20. And I instantly fell in love. I just couldn't get enough of it. And around that sort of time, I don't know, I had that a year or two, something like that. And then I ended up with a ZX Spectrum, and like all kids, you're swapping games in the playground and spending far too much time.
Very familiar with that, Pete. I'm very familiar with that. It was more, to be fair, with my era, it was more sort of PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, not Commodore 64. I did have a Commodore, to be fair. But please, sorry, I'm cutting in. Go.
No, it's fine. We were at that time that everyone will call it the golden era, depending on when they were a child. I suppose it's just how you remember it. But it was at that time when you were transitioning between kind of 8 and 16-bit, and I was just mesmerized by the leaps and bounds that we had in graphics and sound and processing speed, just everything. It just felt like every year was a huge improvement on what we had before. And I remember at my school, we had a room full of BBC B micros. And I was lucky enough, not many people at school at my age just got to do a computer science or computer studies, as they called it. So I know they didn't around here in Telford, because I've said to people, but we had a room of BBC Bs. And at the time, it was like my mum and dad were saying, we're going to get you a computer to help you schooling. So yeah, I need that. I don't want a BBC B because there's no games for that. That's rubbish. But there was a computer called the Commodore Amiga came out, and that was light years ahead of everything, graphics and sound, and it was just amazing. And really, really quite happily, it had a BBC emulator. So that meant I could say to my mum and dad, don't buy one of these old BBC Bs, which are like 400 or 500 quid. Buy this Amiga. It's the same sort of price, but it does all this, and it can run my programs from my BBC. And they fell for it. So that was fantastic. And I eventually did my end of year course assessment, even GCSEs, and I did a game, and it was Bart versus the Space Mutants, because The Simpsons was like hot thing at that time. And I did this little character. I did all the graphics with Bart and his space helmet on and these mutant Martian things. And just like scrolling shoot 'em up, your character goes up and down the screen, you shoot pellets, things die, right? Yeah. I did all the graphics and I had a little sampler so I could record the samples of Bart and things. And I remember they were like, how are you going to do this assessment? And I had to take my Amiga and plug it into a telly at school and demonstrate it at school. And everyone is there, they're demonstrating their projects. They've got a little database, or they type something and it repeats it on the screen. And there I am with this game, feeling like I've just conquered everything, Woo, brilliant. And I've just followed that through my career, just massively interested in 3D graphics, music, programming, anything I can get a computer to do. I was into it and interested in it. and I used to live at Stockport back then, near Manchester, and it was a big music scene. You know, this is the time of Happy Mondays and Spiral Carpets, 808 State, people like that. And so I massively started to get an interest in how can I use music on the Amiga, and doing mod tunes and samples and all this kind of stuff. And I did apply it to work. I was doing bits of programming and things.
Yeah.
For me, it was more the creative side. And I was offered a work experience. This was fantastic. As a 15-year-old, can you imagine this? You're big into games anyway, and you get the opportunity because one of your schoolmates works at Europress. Now, Europress, if you've never heard of it, they were based in Macclesfield, and they had PC Advisor magazine, Micromart, ST Action.
Yes.
So can you imagine? You've got 2 weeks to work, and everyone's going down. They're working in the factory at Adidas, or I don't know, some mundane job. I'm working in a shop or the news agent, and I get to go and work for like one of the biggest in the UK magazine print people. 1 week playing games and writing about them. Brilliant.
Fantastic.
And they offered me a job, but it was like, no, I better go and do my A-levels, and we moved down to Telford here. And yeah, well, from there on, I did a computer science degree over in Nottingham. Got my first PC primarily for playing Doom, like so many people did back in the day. We did a BNC ring network in the house, and all the housemates were all playing Doom and killing each other, and you know, that was the thing that was pushing technology at that time, right?
Yeah.
Did you have that experience? Did you have that?
It was probably a bit before my time, Pete, to be honest. I am familiar with the impact of Doom, because it was sort of pushing the boundaries of anything that anyone had ever done at that point, really, wasn't it? It was mental.
I got to meet John Romero a couple of years ago, and
Really? Wow.
lovely, wonderful guy, and about half an hour just chatting and shooting the breeze with him, and he was so sort of humble, but he was part of this massive development of something new. I suppose if he hadn't done it, someone else would have, right? But a huge admiration and respect for people like that really push the boundaries and develop something new, which is, you know, something I enjoy. Is understanding new tech, getting to grips with something new, and using it to its best advantage. And I mean, back in so when we were at uni, you know, and NCSA Mosaic came along. You ever heard of that?
The Testament. You know, I don't think I have, to be honest. No.
So you know Netscape?
Yes.
A Netscape browser. Before that, there was something called NCSA Mosaic, and there was InfoSeek. Now that was before Google, so we all used to go to InfoSeek to do all our searches. And I remember, Google came along. I'm like, oh, what's all this about? Oh, my search results are a bit more relevant. They're a bit better. And I was using Gopher and FTP and Sun Spark workstations. We had these big screens.
Yes. Yes.
Unix Solaris, and I was smitten. I loved that stuff. I was PCs for me were very much a way forward, but the magic of the internet and the communication protocols. All of a sudden, I was speaking to someone in another university on Janet, the Joint Academic Network. So the way the internet started, you got Janet in the UK, and you got was it ARPA in America? DARPA, something like that. All the military stuff was joined together, and all the schools, and they just merged them all together, and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger, kind of.
Yeah.
And it was just magical. I was there talking to people in a multi-user delusion. Is that what they called it? On Unix, you had a kind of an artificial world where you go left the room, make your own rooms, scripts.
Yeah, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but yeah.
Suddenly talking to people in other unis, and it's like, who are you? What are you doing? And it was the beginning of social networks, and we'd sit and build our own rooms and creative thing. When you walk into a room, you can set the prompt. So you entered Peter's room, and there he is, listening to the Sisters of Mercy or whatever. You just write your own random stuff, and you'd visit each other's places.
Yeah.
Probably shouldn't have wasted so many hours in computer labs late at night like that. I should have been clubbing or something else like normal people.
No, I think me and you are very similar, Pete, because I've sort of had that experience with, for me, especially PCs primarily, definitely video games in that aspect as well. Um, hence, well, I mean, I'm trying to think what I was saying. I've completely lost my train of thought, Pete, to be honest with you.
That's all right, no problem.
Yeah,
So yeah, we're very similar personalities, I think.
yes, absolutely.
And I was very much yeah, the nerdy one in the room, and my parents would worry about me. You know, is he going to turn out like Gollum or something in the future? He doesn't have any social skills. He's just going to be able to talk to computers, and that's it for the rest of his life. But
Very similar, Pete. It's so true with me. Like, I mean, all my sort of friends now, you know, they used to go out sort of clubbing, as you said, clubbing and stuff, and I was building my FX system at home. It's like, this is what I'd probably do. So it's definitely, I definitely resonate with you on that, 100%. 100%.
so yeah, you leave uni, you got to get a proper job.
Yeah.
I went to work for a company. Oh well, actually, before I did a proper job, I had a part-time job at Cinex. Well, it used to be called MyTac back then, over on Nedge Hill.
Yes.
They had a group of 2-3 people that were the technical support department. So MyTac made computers and sold them all throughout Europe, and they 2 or 3 people for the support for the whole of Europe. And I went there as an admin guy. I was just filing or something, and I saw these poor guys in the corner, and literally they were phone down, phone up, talk, phone down, rings, phone up. They did not stop from 9 till 5, phone. And I saw these poor dudes, and they were just, well, totally overburdened. And I thought, well, this filing stuff's a bit boring. This isn't really what I'm going to uni for. I can do this. All this stuff they're talking about, because I'm listening. You know, what are they going through? It's Windows 3.1.1 back then. And I said, well, I can do that. You know, you really seem to be struggling. And the head of the department was kind of reluctant because I was doing a good job at what I was doing. But she said, well, do you want to give it a try? It's like, yeah, do I? Sure. And they put me on this help desk, and it was just crazy. And it was a lot of sending out floppy disks with batch files and auto starts, and people, their sound card doesn't work, and you're setting IRQs and all this old-fashioned stuff as it is now, before you had plug and play.
Yeah. And
we that got me into understanding really how to talk to people about their technology, learning not to be so technical, but not dumbing down, but being able to have a conversation with someone that they can understand what they need. You know, don't get into information.
Yeah, I mean, I've sort of went through the same thing. It's just being able to more sort of relate to that person a bit more, in sort of less technical lingo than probably. I mean, if me and you speak now, we can probably list off words that people, you know, people think we're crazy for. But yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from on that. Definitely.
That was a real learning lesson, both in having to quickly get to technically proficient, you know, really having to understand my stuff, and also how to talk to people. And then I left there and went to work for a startup computer manufacturer. And because I've got this kind of visual passion and design and things, I ended up doing a lot of their marketing. So I was working with QuarkXPress and Photoshop and designing their magazine advertisements.
Yeah.
So I was a massive reader of magazines all the time. I had my Specky and the Amiga and everything. I would spend all my money basically on magazines. I'd have my paper round, and I'd basically finish my paper and go into the newsagent, hand back my wages, and end up with a pile of magazines, because I'm just a bookworm. And so I was very familiar with kind of how they laid out the language they used and everything. And I would, part of my job was to submit computers for review. Okay. So I would design what we were going to be selling in 2 months' time, because if you think about it, you've got 1 month between making the magazine and putting it to publish.
Yeah.
And then a month before to actually design it, get the machine and get them to test it and do everything they needed to do. So I was courting people like Intel and AMD to be able to try and get their latest silicon before it was released, so I could put it into a review computer, win a review, beat all the other guys, and then sell buckets of computers, which I loved that job. It was a lot of traveling to London and meeting with PC Direct, PC Magazine, going to BAFS, Future Publishing, PC Format, and all these people and places I'd been reading about all my life. I was suddenly there and visiting them and seeing them. And it's kind of weird. I mean, they're just editors of magazines, right? But to me, growing up, they were kind of my heroes.
Yes.
It's kind of weird. Did you know Computer Shopper was based in Cosford, just down the road? Or the labs? No. Yeah, so you know the railway station in Cosford? There's a little building just there. And that used to be the Computer Shopper testing labs. And
that's very interesting. No, I didn't know. That's
you'd go in and there'd be, it's not a very big place, and there'd just be piled high all sorts of tech and things that were being sent and given to them. And I think it was a little dirty secret of theirs. It's like they didn't like to admit it was in the middle of Shropshire somewhere.
Wow, I've never known about that. Yeah, that's very good.
And then what was good about that is Europress. They did PC Advisor and Computer Active and all that. So I was back at Macclesfield, where I went as a student, as a kid, as my work experience for 2 weeks. It was the same place.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. So I knew a few of the guys, and I'm not sure that didn't help me get any gold reviews or anything. But it was it certainly helps having relationships with people, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So yeah, from there, eventually I ended up doing web development because that, again, it was very visual. It was very much about the technology. I could see that was the way we were going. I loved the interactivity, and I started to learn programming and started building my own e-commerce systems, worked for a couple of design agencies, and moved on from those fairly quickly. I went to work for a local company, and I ended up building out their internet department. So it was a case of starting from scratch in a way. We had our own server room. And we became our own ISP in a way, which not many people did. They would normally just resell somebody else's solution, but we had a room. So I very quickly had to learn all about power management, heat management, how quickly, when you stick 100 servers in a room, you can start pushing over the number of amps that you've actually got coming into the building, and having battery backups and generators that kick in. But then not only that, building the technology that everything ran on. So your mail servers running on Unix, and designing spam prevention systems and antivirus for that, building web servers, FTP, control interfaces for people to log in and do all this. And then of course you need backup versions of everything, failover. So you've got load balancers, and you need 2 load balancers, because what if one load balancer fails? And you've got Cisco routers, you've got multiple lease lines coming in, dealing with TeleWest, and having redundant connections, because still in the UK, we have a situation where we've got one line from Wolverhampton to Telford, and that's it. If that goes down, as it did a few weeks ago,
I couldn't download anything. I couldn't use anything. It's so annoying. Dark ages.
And the worst thing was my mobile didn't work either. That was just...
No, it didn't. No, it so happened that everything went down all at once. So I couldn't watch sort of stuff on my phone. I couldn't watch stuff on the TV. I couldn't watch stuff on my PC. It was a nightmare. It was a dark time for me, that must be, to be honest.
It did make you realise how much you rely on it, especially in lockdown, because you couldn't really. Was it just before lockdown? I remember going out in my car and I was sat at the top of the road trying to get a signal.
I think it was either just before or just as it started.
Yeah.
Because I remember saying to my partner that they can't expect me to stay in with no internet. So I assume
it's the end of the world. No.
Yeah, I rely on it too much, to be honest. It's mental.
So yeah, I spent all that time building out an ISP and everything. That I mean, it's a lot of work. When I look back and think, crikey, I was doing like probably 5 people's jobs there. Eventually, I got a support team and people helping me and building that and doing that with me. But it was a lot of new technology and a lot of things to monitor and maintain and do. And I'd also built a team that was building e-commerce websites and other bespoke tech. So we were, one of the things I always loved at university was designing systems. So they would give you a problem and say, right, you've got a user that wants this, you've got this data over here. How does everything interact? How do you get the information you want to get out of it from what you've got here, and what are the processes, and how does everything talk to each other? And I've always enjoyed that. One of the best things for me is to go into a business and then say, I've got this issue, I've got this problem. How do I sort it out? So a bit like you guys, I don't know if I can share sort of.
Yeah, absolutely. No, go for it. Yeah, absolutely.
So you guys have spoken to us recently about the systems that you have where you're testing the machines and you've got this nice new platform that you're going to start running, but how do you get the data out of that and present it to your customers so that they've got all the information they need or get it in other ways? And for me, I love that challenge of being able to say, well, yeah, we can do this, 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 and this, and make it a really nice, cohesive experience for not just you, but your customers. And of course, the payoff of that is you become more proficient and you're giving a better service to the customers, and everybody wins, you know. And for me, that's what me and my team, that's what we get a real buzz out of doing.
Absolutely. I can definitely see that from the various help you've helped us with our website and stuff like that. There's never a job too small or never a job too big. No. So when did you start PBS?
So PBS, that was 2012.
Right.
So we're just coming to our end of our eighth year, something like that. So yeah, it's 2020. Yeah. I got to a point in the previous company where I mean, I loved it. I loved it there. I was working with friends. But I was getting a bit stressed out with everything that I was doing, and it felt like the owner had kind of lost focus. His attention was elsewhere on other projects, and I was there for 10 years, and it went by without any recognition. And I kind of thought, well, what are the next 10 years going to be? And I said, look, I'm not feeling in a great place right now. Can I have 3 months off? I just want to have some time to reset and get my head in order. And it got refused. And I just thought, well, okay, I'm putting all this, my heart and soul into it, really. I always do with everything I try and do. And I just reached a point where I thought, I need to do something else. I need to do something for myself. And my right-hand man, Ben Simpson, you might not like me describing him that way, but he was the guy, he was my rock. And he handed his notice into me one day, and that was it. I was like, oh no, I can't face anymore. And I was like, what are you going to do? And I don't know. Oh, what do you mean you don't know? So, well, I just want to do something for myself, and it might fail and I'll have to get another job, but so what? Oh, well, it's funny you should feel like that, because I feel a bit like that as well. And we said, well, let's give it a whirl, because we always got on really well, me and Ben. Ben, when he came for an interview, I remember, we just talked for like 2.5 hours. It was the strangest thing. Most interviews are difficult to get half an hour with someone, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
We just clicked and just jibber-jabber. I mean, he talks a lot anyway, but with both of us, we just got on really well. And they always say that you should choose your partner as well as your wife. And some people say you should be even more careful. And I kind of felt that we could make something together, you know. So we said, right, well, let's give it a whirl. And a very stereotypical story of starting up in a garage. Only it was a little bit more luxurious and that, because Ben's garage had been converted into a bedroom by the previous owner, so we could use it as an office. But for me, it was somewhere to go that wasn't in my house. It was still that office mentality, you know, 9 to 5.
Yeah.
But we both started as very much the ethos that we wanted it to be not something that took over our lives, very much a work-life balance. You know, he wanted to start a family at some point, and he wanted to be something that we could be successful in, but we weren't going to be greedy. We weren't going to be driven by money, and something that ultimately we wanted to enjoy and do what we enjoyed. And that's the kind of ethos that we really try and put through to all our staff and everyone that works with us as well. And we've got a great bunch of guys, and we try and support them as well as we can. And we're not super shiny Google type Californian Silicon Valley style. You know, we can't do that in the UK. We haven't got the money to be able to put slides and whatever else crazy stuff that you hear people have. But it's a weird perception. It's not really like that in Silicon Valley. I don't know if you've ever looked into it, but people, you get these young guys that are devs, they come out of uni and they're like starry-eyed and thinking it's all free bagels and things like that. But reality is a little bit different. But we do exactly what we can. We really nurture them and try and give them the best environment and keep it as casual as we can with flexi time, and really help and support them through all the things they're going through. And at the end of the day, I think that builds loyalty, and the guys seem to be working for us. So
absolutely, yeah, I 100% agree with you on that.
I mean, if they're happy, then they're giving good service. I mean, you've interfaced with a few of them, and
absolutely, yeah,
they're a good crowd. So yeah, 2012, that was the start, and it was a bit of a reboot for me. You know, I got my head in order, and I was much happier, you know, and that was important. And we were really lucky that a couple of customers followed us. They learned we were leaving, and we had a phone call of, we want to keep working with you, which is great. That's a recurring theme. Most of our growth has just been through recommendations or people and enjoying working with us, and that's what we try and maintain. We tend to work with people as their IT department,
yeah,
and having kind of discussions that it's not like your typical supplier relationship. It's very much us getting into the business and what understanding the meat of it. So they're not coming to us and saying, I want this. We're having more conversations strategically, like, well, this is where we want to be. How are we going to do that with our technology?
yeah,
Especially with Bowshed. They're an amazing customer and a great example of that, where we were doing annual meetings, presentations at their AGM, which we would broadcast out to the rest of the world, because they've got 60, 70 offices throughout the world now.
okay.
Getting that level of involvement, that's what we enjoy. You know, it goes back to making a difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So yeah, where do we go from 2012? Got a couple of notes here because I can never remember facts and figures and what we did when. 2015. So we took on our first employee after 3 years, which is, you could argue slow growth, but actually we were kind of enjoying what we were doing and doing a good job. And I think we both said, well, that's how are we going to grow as a business? And the only way you're going to do that is by getting another guy or doing some solution or service that you can multi-sell many times. Yeah. So 2015 for you was a kind of that realization of, right, let's shift this up a gear. So we had 82% growth in that first year by taking a guy on, and we launched a software as a service product called Board Clever. So this was something that it was actually a friend of ours who built some software for his brother-in-law, and he said, look, it's not doing anything with this, but he likes using it. Do you want the code base? And maintain it for him, work on it. And we said, yeah, okay. And we took it to market with his blessing, of course. And yeah, so it taught us a lot about launching some software as a service, as a recurring revenue model generator.
Yeah.
How to support it, effectively you're launching an entirely new business.
Yes.
I probably didn't appreciate that at the time. It's like, we've got this idea, we've got some software, let's just stick it out there, let's put some payment systems up. But actually, it's a new brand, new domain, new logos, new website, it's a whole business.
Yeah.
A lot to do. And but that's been a success. It's still growing, we've still got people using it now. One of the nice things about that is it introduced us to a customer who deals with all of the board directions for Purple Bricks. So all of the instructions from that website, and I'm probably not allowed to say how many there is, but there's an awful lot of them. As you can imagine, every day going through our systems, and they just can't be offline. So again, it's another example of building not just the application, but the whole hosting technical around it, making sure it just doesn't go offline, it just works. And yeah, that's the kind of thing we like to enjoy, having that control, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've mentioned very briefly your customer. So obviously you look after massive, some large companies and some smaller companies as well. You sort of cater for anyone really. There's no sort of fit description of you only look after X customer, you look after Y, Z, A, B, C as well, don't you?
Yeah, I would say if we have a type of customer we go for, it's generally how you measure the size of them, because we deal with generally the company owners. So it's people that have got a kind of small business mentality and that dynamicism around what they do, but you're talking to the people that are making the decisions. So with both sides, you're directly talking to the owners and the 3 or 4 main people that are in control there. But it's a massive organization. There's I can't remember how many. It's something like 1 million people have subscribed or registered on that site now. Okay. They've 360,000 visitors a month.
Oh wow!
They're selling on average 1,000 boats a year. So they've sold something like 20,000 boats. It's a big concern. It's massive.
I know, Ansel.
But as a business, it's quite small, because that's the beauty of the internet, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We do specialize, I guess, in that kind of company, those kind of people.
Yeah.
And the nice thing is we've been afforded the luxury of people that want that advancement, they want that technology, and we get to play with the big boy technology. At the end of the day, it's you can build systems small using the same tech as you do building them big. If you design them well, they'll scale up, is what I'm trying to say. You don't have to just go and start small and only have. So for example, Ironheart Jeans is another customer that we've got. So Ironheart, they reached a certain point in their growth where they've got a guy in a bedroom, essentially. He was doing a great job for them. It was, I don't want to do a disservice there. But they're a very strong fashion brand. And I'm not into clothes. How many IT guys do you know that like go around wearing fancy clothes? It's but the quality of what they do, it's an amazing product. They have a pair of jeans that they're made from gram weight, so it's like meter. The way you measure material, it's like I think it's a meter square, and you weigh it. And they do stuff that's like up to 24 ounces, so it's really, really super thick denim. And there's only apparently so many looms in the world that you can actually create this kind of material on in Japan. The Japanese, so they make these things in Japan, these clothing, and do a whole lot of designs. And the people that we're dealing with, they came to us because they saw the great work we did at Boat Shed. and they are a global seller of this product, a lot in America. And sorry, my tangent's gone off a little bit there. So they're European distributors as well. So they've got a whole bunch of shops that they're supplying this is a great product. But what they've done, I've never seen anything like this. They have built a group of customers that are so loyal, incredibly loyal, on a forum. Before social networking really was massive, super massive.
Yeah.
They built this collective of people that just love their brand and sing it. You know, it's incredible. So when they had a sale, guess what? Their one server that they got running their e-commerce system ended up in that scenario where nobody can get onto it. You were selling products twice, lots of unhappy people. They couldn't get what they wanted, all that kind of stuff. So we were brought in to kind of take our knowledge of how to do this on a global scale and how to solve those pain problems by using AWS, Amazon Web Services,
Yep.
Which is where you get a server, and most of the time it's not doing very much. It's quite quiet. And then the load balancer looks at the traffic and it goes, oh my God, it's going crazy. Quick, build more servers. And then you can cope with the demand that's coming in. And the first couple of sales that we had after that, as soon as we implemented that, 100% success. So it worked really well. But the challenges were going to America. The market there is, again, that's quite great because you can't just, I mean, people think they stick an e-commerce shop in the UK, anyone from the world can buy from it. The problem you've got is most people in America, they don't leave America. They don't travel. They've got plenty of their own stuff to look at, right?
Yeah.
So they don't register their credit cards to be used abroad.
Right.
And there were massive numbers of failures of transactions. And it's like, well, why is this happening? And even if you use a UK or European processor of credit cards, they were still getting loads of failures from America, even though they were saying, like PayPal, you would think even PayPal as an American company would still accept more American transactions. But no, there's a massive distinction between PayPal America and PayPal UK or Braintree or wherever your merchant account is. And but the only way you can get an American merchant account is by having an entity, a legal commercial entity in America.
Right.
So we went through this whole process of like, well, how are we going to make it so that you're getting less failed transactions? And it led us to launching an American store, e-commerce store. But they're all coming from one stock source. So then it's, how do you list the product once, but it appears in both the stores?
Yes.
Although I've got some stores I want to target over here and I don't want them over here.
Yeah.
I mean, if I sell one over here, I want it taken out of stock over here as well.
Yeah.
So it was great. It was a tremendous challenge, and that's all working lovely, and we're still continuing to build that out. But it's just another example of where we have a little bit of extra knowledge above typical e-commerce. You know, someone that says, I can build you an e-commerce site, which is becoming a pretty saturated market now. And you've got people like Shopify.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's easy to just fire up a shop on Shopify and prove a concept. You know, you might have an idea and just want to launch something and to see how it goes. But the idea that seems to be stuck in a lot of people's heads is that if I launch a website, I'm going to be an overnight success.
Yes.
And, you know, 10 years ago, you could do that. But we've had a few people that have been a little bit disappointed. We've worked hard, we've done them a great e-commerce solution, but then it kind of stopped there. And really that's the start of the journey. Just getting your product right, listed correctly, making it SEO friendly, that is the start. Then it's all about the promotion. It's all about, well, how are you going to get people to see this? And you're going to have to start doing some AdWords or Facebook ads or something, because that's just the way that they've driven that now. You can't cheat the system anymore. You can't, anyone that says I'm going to put you in the top 10 of Google is just, it's nonsense. They're going to do it in a dodgy way, and before you know it, Google's going to penalize you for it.
Yeah, I don't think I was quite, but that's what I mean by the sort of quick companies. Like they promise you these massive promises like, "Oh, we're going to put you in the 10 SEO of Google," and then they don't deliver, and then you're the one sort of paying out in the end because it's your website.
That is their entire business premise. That is it. They'll do it to you, sell it to you, move on to the next one.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what I don't think I got my point across quite well, to be fair. So I went a bit of a rant. But that's entirely what I mean. So someone's selling you the idea of sort of a quick money fix, if that makes sense. So you've got this wholeheartedly idea that you believe in, and someone's taking advantage of you from the other end, saying, "Oh, we can make you millionaires over 2 days," that sort of stuff, and then
Yeah, those.
you're left massively disjointed and sad that you haven't done. These companies over there have told you, "Oh, you're gonna do it. You're gonna be fine." But it's just being in reality of where you are, really.
Yeah, we'll try and make it as real as possible. So turn some people off, but I'm not going to tell any lies. It's hard work.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Nothing great in this world comes easy, you know.
No.
Unless you're born into it, maybe. But
yeah, I mean, especially with our website, we're currently going through a lot of trial and error on, especially before. Obviously, you've made some changes now, which have been massive for the whole website. Even the sort of picture overlays and that sort of stuff, it looks so much better now.
a little tweak.
Yeah, just a little tweak and just make everything seem so much better. And that's where I think the knowledge from PBS and yourself, that's where it's, because when me and Steve Ball, when we sort of coerced over Zoom, there was a few ideas kicking around, and we thought, "Oh, why don't we just change the overlay on the pictures?" And overall, it's made a huge impact on the website. Everything looks smart, everything looks lighter, which is what we want, because we said the website was too dark. But overall, it's looking good. Looking good.
Yeah, nice.
Looking
I should probably mention the other business that we're involved in as well, because that's a major part of who we are. And again, in 2015, we were approached by a long-term customer of mine, My Workwear. I developed their e-commerce from scratch, from Notepad, and you'd be mental to do that now, but I built the entire e-commerce system and developed it. And they were quite unique. They were one of the first to market to start selling the idea of buying a t-shirt, choosing your product, choosing your apparel, and getting a logo, uploading it, and saying, "I want this logo here, or there, or wherever." And the system would then develop some paperwork, and it would get processed. And that did quite well for them. They were doing really well in the SEO and things. And it got to a point where Mike Worthington, the owner, wanted to retire. And James, the son, was approaching me and saying, "Look, I think we could do really well. Your technical skills and me to sell it combined could be really successful. It could do really well." And immediately, me being me, just said, "It's clothes, not interested. I don't want to work in clothes." And anyway, thankfully, he came back and he said, "Are you sure this could be a really good opportunity?" And I said to Ben, I said, "Look, James has got this idea. What do you think?" And we sat down, and actually we saw there was a massive potential. The company was started in 1976, My Workwear. So it's 40 years old. And we could see so many places that we could make improvements. So basically we brokered a deal and ended up with about half of the company. And we have gone in and really tried to just completely digitally transform. I mean, that's the buzzword at the moment, right? Digital transformation, ripping out all the legacy stuff and taking all the old bits of code or computer stuff and making modern cloud-based web applications and things. But we literally threw away something like 7 or 8 filing cabinets full of paper, and the filing cabinets themselves. You walk along and it's like, "What's this?" "Well, I might need that." "When?" "When did you last need this bit of paper?" Was it in 1980, which is the date written on this bit of paper?" Maybe. So we just booted everything out, total clear out, and went through all of their systems and really streamlined everything. I mean, Ben and has been most involved in that project, and he recently achieved an MBA, so he did a fantastic job personally, re-educating himself on businesses and systems and the way to do things, and that's his passion. That's what he gets out of this combination of me with my tech loving and Ben with his business side, and how we apply that. So we've just binned as what we can, and we've got a system now where the e-commerce order goes through to Sage straight away, but then it generates a work document. So then that is given to the production guys. That gets put into what we call the work in progress system. So that's on a screen. So they know all the jobs they've got coming in. They've got an SLA that said they should get that out within 3 days or whatever.
Yeah.
That then allows them to look at their scheduling. So they know how many people they need working that week. And all the ordering system then needs to make sure the stock's in. It's a bit like just-in-time ordering, because we haven't got a massive warehouse. We have to order the stuff in, get it out as quick as we can.
Yeah.
But ensuring that we're meeting the SLAs, the customers are getting lots of communication, excuse me, and just managing that whole thing. Screens everywhere, everybody's targeted. You've got to make sure that this is your role, this is how you're scored, and making sure there's a score for them to see. You know, they can actually see what their performance is.
Yeah.
What's that thing about measured? So if you can measure it, then you can. Ben would know. If it can be measured, then you can work out your performance. But if you can't measure it, then you can't use it as a KPI. You know.
Yes.
You can't say to somebody, "I want you to do this," but then not give them any kind of specific way of them measuring their own performance.
Yes.
So yeah, it's become really efficient. Everyone's got really productive. It's started to become really profitable, which is obviously the end goal. So for us, it's a kind of a prime example of what we can do. It's how you should transform a business, and using business intelligence. You hear that a lot at the moment. How do we get these little bits of data in silos? Because so many companies have got a bit of data here, they've got a bit of data there, and their account system can tell them one thing, and their sales system can tell them something else, or maybe the production's got another bit of data, but they're missing that overall picture of, well, what does it all mean?
Yeah.
When you bring it together? What is the actual company performance? And that's something else we're working on, and doing for other companies, so that there's a high level understanding or review, like a management report, or whoever you are in the business. Different people need to know different stuff, right?
Yeah.
But if we can link together different systems and pull it into, if it's like Xero or whatever third-party system's got an API, we can make systems talk to each other and move data around and do all that kind of stuff. Because then you can make proper decisions. You can make real decisions on live data, and it makes a tremendous difference.
Good stuff.
There's so many customers we've done so many great things for, and it's difficult to choose the ones to highlight.
Yeah, I think what I especially, because I only spoke to you like 2 weeks ago, wasn't it? 2 or 3 weeks ago. I spoke to Jordan before. I spoke to Jordan a lot, to be fair, especially with our old sort of sales e-commerce website. But I from that moment of speaking to you and Harry, I think I could immediately tell that you're not just a sort of web design company. You actually, because I think there's obviously you get a lot of web design companies that just do what they say. But
yeah, we're not designers.
No, you don't. Anything we throw at you, no matter how strenuous or anything like that, it's a very good service, and we've obviously will continue to use it. It's very we love the relationship we have with you guys as well. Like we can just phone you up and say we need this doing, and then we can go from there.
Thank you.
No, it's fantastic. So I think moving just a bit on, I think me and you are very similar in regards to what we like to do outside of work probably the same stuff, to be fair. Is in hobbies and that sort of stuff.
Mm, very much. Yeah, so we've had a chat before offline, haven't we, about you got a YouTube video, so you're doing like gaming streaming and stuff.
Yes, at the moment, yeah.
I've not checked that out yet, I must admit. Have you checked out mine?
I have, yes. I've watched. I think I've watched. I've watched about 3 or 4.
Really?
Yes, I find it very. That's sort of me, though. To be fair, I'll leave Pete's YouTube. All the socials and stuff will be down.
Oh no! Don't link it to my professional life. It's purely for fun. That YouTube channel. My ethos is very much, I don't like throwing stuff away. If I can make it work again, I'll fix it. So I launched this channel called The Tinkerer, and it's mainly just me. If I can't find a video out there that already exists of somebody teaching you how to fix something, then I want to make it if I'm going to do it. And I hate the throwaway society that we've become. Anything you buy is for the price of a new one. I could just, why bother repairing it?
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's the ecological aspect. If it's only like a $5 service part from eBay.com or something, or from China, then why not do it?
Absolutely. I think that's what we want to start pushing as well, because we've noticed that a lot of sort of the iPad industry, the item industry and that sort of stuff, they sort of only advertise that they recycle. So from a waste point of view, and from like an e-waste point of view, we XPO want to stop any sort of, if we can, any sort of waste or any sort of recycling. Everything should be reused. It's the way I'm trying to do it. But sorry, I've quit him. Go on, continue.
No, it's and I love coming to your place because you've got all this old tech around, and it's just immediately my brain's like, oh, it's one of those. Oh, can we fix this? Brilliant. I'm trying to convince Steve to find me some old CPUs because I want to have a collection of. So I'm big into my retro computers and retro gaming, and I want to have a little collection of CPUs, like a 386 and a 486, and put them in a little. I don't care if they're broken and all the pins have gone. I just want to put them on the wall as like. I love the appreciation of the history of where we've come from in technology, and my room I'm in here now is surrounded by. Like NESs and Super Nintendos and PlayStation, every generation. And over here, I've still got an Amiga that I'm playing with here, and it's upgraded with. What's crazy is people are still building hardware for this.
I know. So, the sort of emulation in the RetroArch scene for Amiga is absolutely mental. They're still making stuff now, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's got. I actually got it working on the internet for the first time. So as long as I've had Amigas, the buzz for me to just get it working and have a web browser. I mean, it works very, very badly, but it's like, wow, I've wanted to do this for 30 plus years. I've actually got it working on the internet. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do with it next, mind, but it's. Yeah, I love. I love old tech, yeah, and I collect consoles and computers. And one of the videos I did was on the Vectrex recently. That's a tremendous thing. This isn't mine, sadly. I wish it was. So this is one of the first computers that came with a screen built in.
Yes.
And the console and everything's comes out of here. A beautiful bit of equipment, but it had no display. So, me being me, my friend just said, well, do you want to see if you can fix it? And yeah, you can see the teardown video if you're interested. But I think it's horrible taking apart those kind of things. Those CRT screens, because everything you read says high capacitance, high voltage. This could kill you in capital letters. And you kind of taking the back out, and you look at it and daren't touch anything or go near it. But I discovered the trick is just to leave it turned off for like 2 weeks, and then it just discharges. It's never going to kill you then. But yeah, so anyone says that retro computing is not a dangerous sport, you
know. I'm very much the same, Pete, to be honest. It's more for me, my collection's based on sort of especially Nintendo stuff, as I've mentioned before. Super Nintendo, Nintendo Entertainment System, that sort of stuff, especially the older titles as well. That's me, all over.
The problem, or not the problem, I collect all this stuff and I get it working, and like my dad found an Amstrad CPC 464 at the auctions, and he said, "Do you want this?" I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, £20 or whatever. So I buy it and I get an interface and I put a floppy drive on it, and then you can get SD card readers to the floppy drive. So now I can put all the games on a little SD card. You know, a tiny card can get like every catalog of game for the Amstrad, thousands of them all on the one thing. And I get it working and I play with it and I enjoy it, and that's it. It goes back in the box. So I don't sit there playing games. I'm just constantly, it's the challenge of getting it working and the experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of sad in a way because I should play with this stuff more. That and cars are my love. I built my own car, like a
Really?
Caterham.
Wow.
So that was nearly 15 years ago now. I started to build that, and every nut and bolt, the engine, the full lot, everything. And that wasn't only really the internet, Yahoo groups back at the time, that gave me the impetus or encouragement to do it, because I was terrible with a spanner. I had to learn everything, how to use the tools. I had to buy the tools. I had nothing. And if there's ever an example of you can do anything by reading and learning, that was it.
Yes.
And I managed to build this thing in about just over a year, and then get it on the road and through its SVA test. And then the next year I was racing it around Donington Park and Alton Park, and scaring my parents to death.
No, I never knew you like sort of cars. I mean, I have no idea of cars, to be honest. It's completely beside me. I don't understand them at all. It's just, I just can't get my head around them, if you want me to be honest. I don't think they're for me, to be honest, cars.
I think you probably could. If you can get your head around computers, you can get your head around cars. It's just it's why kids are good at computers, right? Parents buy a computer. I used to work at Escom and I'd sell computers, and they were, oh, little Johnny, he just picks it up naturally. I'm scared of it. Well, the reason why they're scared of it is because they know how expensive the bill is if they break it. The kids don't care. They'll just go for it, right? And that's what learning's all about. And when you pick up a spanner and you approach your car, most people, I don't understand it. So if I break this, it's going to cost me an awful lot of money to get the garage mechanic to sort it out. And you know what garage mechanics are like? They're just going to look at it and go, you did what? Did you do this? Yeah. And nobody wants to go through that. For me, I pick up a book, learn it, figure it out. I did the wife's car, an old ZR, the K-cylinder engine. They were just notorious for just going through head gaskets, and you have to take like all the top of the engine off and everything and do it. And I'm okay when I'm not under a deadline. If I've got time to patiently do it and then put it to one side when I get a bit frustrated, that's okay. But it's just nuts and bolts.
Just nuts and bolts.
You could try it. Yeah, it is just nuts and bolts at the end of the day. As long as
I'll have to do
it. How not to round the bolts. Yeah, that's important. How not to snap bolts.
All bolts, essentially.
Once you've done it once or twice, you don't do it again, right?
No.
So yeah, that computers, cars, music and gigs. During the lockdown, I think I've reached that age where nostalgia, that middle-age crisis time. I'd already had sports cars, so that's not stereotypical. I already had a sports car. But I did buy an electric guitar. And now all I need is a motorbike and a ponytail. No, I've done every single stereotypical midlife crisis thing, I think. Or maybe the young girlfriend, although I'm quite happy with my wife. So. Put that down on the list of things you probably shouldn't say on a business podcast.
No, yeah, absolutely. Well, I can always cut some out. It's not a problem. So finally, I always ask, could you recommend a guest? If you can think of anyone.
Yeah, so there's a couple of people I've thought that might be able to do this. I was speaking to one earlier on actually. I had a really good chat with him, but I'm not going to mention any names right now, just in case it puts too much pressure on them. So let me check back, and but yeah, I've got a couple of ideas for you.
Fantastic. Well, it's fantastic having you on, Pete. Thank you for your time.
No, thank you very much for the opportunity, and you know, I enjoy talking with you guys anyway.
Fantastic. See you soon.
All right, take care. Cheers.
Bye-bye.